Population keeps on bleeding, nation bleeding, still more bleeding. Life is funny, skies are sunny, bees make honey, honey, no.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:32. It's January 14th. It's Wednesday. Some people are like, Red Dog, what happened? Did somebody kidnap you? I'm like, no. I told you guys I was going to a charity uh, golf outing in Palm Beach, Florida, where I was being named the Northeast Ambassador of the CPRF Foundation, a foundation where they bridge the gap between law enforcement and communities. And sometimes I got to be off the desk. So if you missed the 6:30 club and you were a little lost, you know, that's because I've been doing it since 2020, consistently every Monday through Thursday for free. So if you feel like you're like, oh my God, I don't know the levels of the spies, I don't know what's the keys to the day, then you better subscribe above to Red Dog Mindset, because at some point, it's all going to be behind the paywall. So if you felt like you were lost, then subscribe above. It's right on Twitter. It's real easy. $10 and you'll never lose Red Dog moving forward. I don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point, you know, with all these bots and the way that the Twitter is, you know, I got to drown out the noise so I can interact and have conversations with real people. So if you have 250,000 Twitter followers, you know, there's a decent portion of them that are bots. But anyway, thanks for tuning in today. Here we are. Futures are down a little bit. Yesterday, the CPI was light. Market felt a little wishy-washy. They sold the news. It held in there. And there's a lot of geopolitical news flow. So I think people are starting to get a little antsy. Plus, I think calendar-wise, this is a soft week or two. Once you get the monthly flows, the quarterly flows, the yearly flows that start. So when you start a year, new mutual funds, hedge funds, institutions, they just put their money in because they're lazy. So those flows start to, you know, pull back a little bit. So you get a little less, you know, buying pressure. But anyway, let me say hello to some of my dogs around the world. We got Jeff Page. We do miss your positive thoughts every day. That's good. Tim Haggerty, Jeff Page, welcome back. The big question, did you outdrive Hojo? I did not outdrive Hojo, but I did interview Howard Johnson. So I was there. I got to interview a lot of individuals, which I'm going to post the videos. Hojo from the 86 Mets that won the World Series. I interviewed Leritz, who's the one who hit the Grand Slam for the Yankees. Paul, who's like the Rookie of the Year. And guess what? Everyone in the interview, first of all, they knew Red Dog Mindset. No, they didn't. They just knew I was wearing the shirt. You know, they all said the same thing. It's routine process. You know, you don't rise to the occasion. You revert to your training. That's why every day we're in here. That's why every day we're looking at levels. That's why every day we're going over different charts. We're going with our go-to list, our ABC list. Same thing. You know, Hojo is like, I envisioned myself being in the World Series, you know, hitting a home run. And guess what? That's what he did. And that's what he became famous for. Paul envisioned himself dating the hottest girl in the country. No, I'm kidding. He envisioned himself being, you know, the youngest baseball pitcher out there, and now he's going to get paid $50 million. But anyway, so here are the spies. So the spies are down 240. Some people are like, why are the spies down? What's going on here? You know, markets are allowed to absorb and trade, right? You know, especially after a move to highs. Question is, you know, what's your risk? Does your trade change? Do you have to reduce some risk? I tried to reduce a little bit of my exposure out there, but I still have things going on. There are still things hanging in there. So 691, 691.28. So that's like right here. So if some people are like, well, Red Dog, are we going to continue this active sequence that started in the beginning of the year? I'm like, well, it would go a long way if we hold 690, 691. Because if you break that, you know, then there's really nothing down until, you know, the 21 day, you know, which is down here closer to 687. And if that happens and you have too much risk on or too many trailers on, you're going to have a bleed. Yeah, Bitcoin got stronger. Silver and gold, holy cow. I got rid of my silver and gold a little early. I apologize, but at least I'm not on the other side in the pain trade. Just because you sell silver early or gold a little early doesn't mean you have to reverse on any trade and go short it and get caught in a short trade or a pain trade. I learned my lesson where sometimes I carve out moves and it's fine. Let it go without you, but it doesn't mean you have to take the other side of the trade. Just let it go, let it set up again. And if it gets out of hand, watch, get some popcorn and just hang out. Make sure it's air popcorn, not too much butter and fried. But anyway, again, spies, in order to hang here and make it easy to stay with, a lot of risk, which we've been since pretty much in here, I would think this holds. If not, it could still hold a 21-day and be fine, for the rest of January. But if it does, and you have too many things on, it's not going to feel so good. The Qs lagged a little bit. Qs never got to highs. So I would say for the Qs, same kind of level is like 622. What's this low here? This is 622. This is 623. You're going to want to see the Qs hold 622, 623. Otherwise, it could also see the 21-day or see the 617 area. So the question is, how much do you have in there? So, it's good to have a little bit of hedges on or whatnot. So, there's been a lot of action, but again, it's really hard, as far as it's very specific. Like there are some things to do in Mag 7 land, but not every stock is created equal. It's all different types of setups. And I have 100 different setups in my head that I use from 28 years, but anyway, not everyone has that many setups. So what's working? Google, I'm still in. Google is working. Google, to start the year, if you remember, right in here, it held 310. This was 310 right here. And I got long on this day. And yesterday I did trim into strength. I had a decent amount. I had more Google than I've had on in a while. And I trimmed into this move to 340.48. I'm very small. Google worked. Google was the only Mag 7, name to make a new all-time high. It's really cool when you could, buy low, add into strength, and sell, into some strength there. And that this is Google. There isn't a lot of Mag 7 names like this at all. But doesn't mean you can't make money in them, because what you could do is you could use tactical entries. Like with Tesla, we had a tactical entry last Thursday finally, and it paid you. Last Thursday, okay, you could have bought Tesla at 428, went below 428, came back above it, okay, then cleared this high and gave you a move right into resistance too. So this was a nice little trade. Listen, it's not an all-time high trade. It wasn't a Tesla's going to 500 trade. It was it pulled in from 498 down. It gave you a low of 424. You could have bought a 428 and made a little bit of money. So now the question is this over? Is it going to break this little rising, trend line and head back down towards this area? Because sometimes it's just a reflex bounce. So you have to be careful. So Tesla's down 288. Dips have been bought though in Tesla. So I'm going to look at it today. I don't have any Tesla left on. This is yesterday's low. This is 443.95. That's your active pivot. 443.95. And you'll see, does it hold that? If it doesn't hold that, sometimes it breaks it, stops some people out, and then comes back above. It could do that too, but we'll see where the 443. What's this? 443.95. I just did that right here. So chances are, does it hold this? It might not, to be honest. So you have to be careful, especially if you're long a lot. I don't think a lot of my guys are used to this now. Tesla became a tactical trade. Love it and leave it. If it doesn't hold here, the next trade is 438. So be careful. I'm going to look at it as a day trade if I see a signal today to buy some more. I don't have any on, or buy some just for a trade. Tesla right now, again, is it's down 288, not the end of the world. So anyway, Apple, I'm trying to find the bottom, but it's really hard. I bought some options. I traded around some stock. I did get stopped out yesterday when I was off the desk. In the end of the day, I had to go. Chase had a basketball game. We played Madison, and we won in overtime. But anyway, so this doesn't seem so great, to be honest. This looks like it's like just another little, like almost a little bear flag. So we have to be careful here that it doesn't break this. Maybe Apple turns into a little bit of a safety trade, with the futures down, but we'll see. So, Apple is not great. Netflix, I bought some options late last week, thinking someone was like, hey, Red Dog, there's a lot of option flow. Some people think that maybe Netflix doesn't do the deal because it's been bleeding, whatever. Anyway, Netflix is up a little bit, but that's not great. So Ken says ASTS yesterday was a day to take notice down. I don't have any ASTS, not really, to be honest. It's not a day to take notice down. Just Tested the 8 day. It can't make a new all-time high every day. Everyone's getting a little spoiled with some of these things. But, yeah, so it did trade below a prior low. The market was down. It was allowed to, hit the 8 day. It's also allowed to hit the 21 day. So it's a day to take notice if you have too many shares. It's a day to take notice that, hey, maybe it needs to consolidate. But ASTS has been really good. So where's ASTS this morning? It's only down 90 cents. So we'll see, does ASTS hold the 8 day, which is closer to 90? If it breaks 90, hey, then if you were to, so this is the thing. Let's just do 90-ish, okay? Depends on your trade. If you're in ASTS thinking that this thing's going to be, 150 this year because it's got great new technology, it's a whole new area of the market, great. If you're in it because you think it's going to trade above 102 and make a new high to 105 tomorrow, if it breaks 90, chances are it's not happening tomorrow. And if you have too many shares because you're trying to get paid in January, it's different. If you're in it because hey, maybe it holds up here, goes sideways and does it in a few weeks, that's different. So what trade are you in? But ASTS has been great. It just, the bears are going to point a little bit to a double top. And if we're in a weaker market environment, we need to see how it holds up. Same thing with RKLB. RKLB looks pretty good, but, it's getting a little faulty up here also. The major trade that I had was here. This was awesome. This was when we started the year. It looked very tight. It was holding the 8 day. I was in verse 73, took out 79.83, gave you a trade to 86, and it's still, above the 8 day moving forward. Just the question is, does it stay in this sequence where it's above the 8 day, or does it need to, change a little bit? So as I'm going through this, I changed the charts. I wasn't here on Monday, so I update things. So what I do is I update everything for the Alpha team. Once I leave the 6:30 club, I'm on the radio. We're listening to music, and I'm putting 40 different charts in the Alpha team with levels for us to navigate. What's up, Richard Judge? Good to see you. Yeah, some people said, hey, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's finally showing some relative strength, which is true. And it did, and now it's up. IBIT's up a whole 27 cents. It's not silver. Look at silver. Wow, up another 3. I'm hearing that it's trading 95 in Shanghai. So a lot of people who trade silver trade it so many different ways worldwide. There's arbitrages everywhere. If you have a friends in Shanghai, you could be buying it in the 80s and selling it there in the 95s, playing arbs. That's what a lot of these big wirehouse desks are that have places everywhere. So there's a lot going on in this. So silver and gold, holy cow, gold's up another 4. So anyway, so Bitcoin has not been the place to be. So the guys in their 20s and 30s, they've been making fun of the boomers for 2-3 years, and now the boomers are sitting back and saying, hey, you know what, we're 80 years old, we've done this, learn from your elders. Anyway, I was just talking to a friend of mine who actually has been accumulating silver and gold for 17 years. I'm like, you know what the beauty of that is? It's like another house, right? People make the most in their house because you pay a mortgage for 30 years and you're not trim and trailing it. It's just building equity, and then when you sell it, hopefully you're making huge money, you get a big bang. So the beauty of the guys that believe in gold and silver, they've been buying it for 10, 15 years, not trading it like us, and now they're getting paid handsomely. So congratulate to all of you guys. And also, if you're in silver, technically, if you remember, we've had this a bunch of times, huge buy. That was when it was a huge buy. Now it's like, wow, now it's kind of getting dangerous. So what's this high here? This high for silver is 80.80. It's opening above it. If you are long silver, you have to sell some. You have to ring the register a little bit. You have to. I know some guys are, I'm never selling my silver. You can't say you're never selling your silver because, there are times when it's, there are just different cycles of it. Anyway, what was it? 80.80. So where's silver right now? Silver is 81. So someone's like, Red Dog, you always post your sell rules, when I need them before. So I'm going to tell you the sell rules, okay, now, while it's happening. So we can even like silver. So if you own silver, this is the sell rules of silver, okay, or anything. If it gaps in your favor, which it is, it's up 4% at 81.97. Just say you have 2,000 SLV coming in. You sell 500 or 1,000 of it because it's a huge gap in your favor. You sell some. Then if it fails to hold 80.80, maybe you sell a little bit more. So you sell 1,000 into strength, okay, get paid. 500 if it doesn't hold here, and then hold 500 as a trail. And if it happens to go back below this and then trades below yesterday's lows, and all of a sudden gives you a huge loose and wide range, which you kind of saw here, but it repaired real fast. Then it changes. So if you're using your sell rules in silver, which you should be, okay, you need to sell some into strength, and then if it doesn't hold the prior high, if you sell some into strength and it holds 80-80 and it just continues, then you only sold a little bit into strength and it never got back below a prior high. But anyway, Rox, you're accumulating Bitcoin. You think it'll be the same? Okay, well that's cool. I do think you continue to buy Bitcoin like a silver and gold in an asset allocation chart, and you will get paid, because 127,000 is not going to be the high for Bitcoin. Maybe for 2026, but moving forward. So you accumulate. My guy was like, I've been battling silver and gold for 17 years. The crypto guys are spoiled, because usually every year or so there's always a new high. There wasn't a new high in gold and silver. But anyway, you're loving the MSOS is hanging in there. It looks okay. From what I'm hearing from guys who are really, really close to the cannabis, they think Trump's going to come out and start ranting about this sector, about safe banking, about all these things. Not this, where it's just like decriminalizing, like a real rhetoric. But anyway, at this point, it's acting fine. Don't over focus on it. I have a lot of $6 and $7 calls for February and March. If you don't want to trade it, maybe buy some calls. And then if he does rant and he goes up really well, you can call Uncle Red Dog and say, hey, thank you. But anyway, Nvidia thoughts. Nvidia hasn't been great. It's hanging around, in this range. But again, like most tech, it's if it's not a headwind, it's fine. So I would say if you want to be long Nvidia, the low here is 183. Just be long versus 183. And there's still just a lot of debate. Sometimes it leads, and sometimes it's just good when it's not a headwind. So this is 183. Where's Nvidia this morning? Nvidia is down $1.27. I'll look at Nvidia today. I'm telling you, I will look. I'm not in Nvidia to give me a signal to go red to green. If we're going to hold in there, Nvidia probably goes from red to green. So it's still in this range, and sometimes you just have to knick-knack things. Or if you're in it, as a swing, you could be in it versus 183, or maybe you're in it versus 176. It all depends on your trade. But there's no momentum here. There's no strength. It's not a momentum special name right now. It's just under accumulation, and we'll see if it gets better moving forward. Some people like Red Dog XLE is finally working out. Yeah, XLE is working out. I'm in two different sets of options. It's not the easiest sector to trade, to be honest, but it is holding above the 8-day. It's holding above here. It looks like it's going to take out 47.41 and 48.96. You can't buy the XLE in strength. You can only do it really, on a nice dip. I actually bought into here, which was great, and I'm still sitting in both. What's XLE doing this morning? Somebody said XLE is up 35 cents. We'll see if we can get above this. XOM looking better. Look at that. Making highs. I do think out of all of these, I like Chevron. Chevron, just look at the long-term chart. Chevron hasn't done a whole hell of a lot in a long time. You have to be careful with these things, but you go to the weekly chart of Chevron. It hasn't done anything yet. Look at this weekly chart in Chevron. Look at all this accumulation. Yet a move. Wow. So this to me looks like with the Exxon could be the bulky trade, kind of like when you're in tech and you want to be in Apple and Microsoft, and then you're also in like more spec type tech. If you like energy, XLE, you better be in Chevron and XOM. And someone said, how's Halliburton doing? Halliburton hasn't even cleared the downtrend yet. So people, you didn't miss much yet. Go back to the XLE. XLE just poked its head above this little spot. So you have like this weird looking cup and handle pattern, just poked its head above this spot. It's not even above where it was in 2025. If you look at the chart of the SPYs and the same thing, look what the SPYs have done. Woo! I'm not going to get into this whole, by the way, I do chart weekly charts too, for fun, and anyway, this is the weekly chart of the SPYs. Holy cow, look at this move the SPYs have had. That's why some people are really mad at hedge funds. Like, I've been in a hedge fund for 4 years, and all I had to do is buy the SPYs. All right, sometimes it works, but then when it doesn't, it doesn't. But this is what the SPY weekly looks like. So somebody's like, well, everyone says that 2026 is going to be tough. Well, if 2026 is going to be tough, it's got to break this 8 and 21 day first, which it just hasn't. But again, it's been a nice move there. um, if you're midterm or long term, just make sure you keep putting your monthly flows in. If you trade for a living, you better be tuning into the 630 Club. Tune into people that you trust. Tune into people that have quick feet because you need quick feet out there. UNH was looking good but failed. That's what laggards do. I have a guy that I've been coaching who all he wants to do is buy these broken laggards, and sit on them for 3 to 6 months. I'm like, wouldn't you rather be in things that are moving, things that where there's volume, things that are triggering, where you could buy a dip, add to it, sell higher? I'm like, that's how I want to live my life. I don't want to live my life buying a broken stock for 3 years and waiting for it to repair and the story to change. You could do that, but that's just not me. Anyway, so again, here's the SPYs. What's the SPYs doing? I got to get going here. The SPYs are down 260 right into this zone. I think this zone is going to be important. If we don't hold here, it can get a little bit shaky into there, and then everything's going to wind up coming in. You got to be careful with what you have. So TAP says VLO, ENS, both energy plays, one crude refining, the other battery and energy solutions. Okay. I've never even looked at ENS, so I'll put that up. Wow. Yeah, there. Who says there's a bull market everywhere? Well, there's a bull market good in this. And what's VLO doing? VLO is a little different. VLO, at least if you were trading it just like an earnings play, you could be long versus 177. That's your gap pivot. I go over this strategy all the time. 177 is right here. So if you're not paying up at 192, okay, you could be buying verse, 177. So, I think buying a dip on the energy names is a lot better. But if it fills this gap, then that trade changes. You say Airbnb looks like it wants to be special. I just booked an Airbnb for my friend's 55th. Anyway, let's check that out before I go. I haven't looked at this in a while. Airbnb. Yeah, you know what? Airbnb. It's above the 8 day, above the 21 day. Let's go back a little bit. I haven't looked at this since here. Yeah, you know what? It's kind of level here. It's acting better. It's definitely something to do. It's, I say the longer it holds here, like you could be long verse the 21 day, and then I don't know if there will be a momentum, but if you can get above this area, there's room back towards the highs. Not bad. Something off the beaten path. Bank of America. I haven't looked at this one in a while. The banks got really beat up. I think banks lost kind of special status. The whole thing about interest rates and this and that, and it broke this rising channel here. So I'd be a little careful on an active basis. Plus, they sold J.P. Morgan into a solid report, which they always do. So this is a spot, and then this is another. Bank of America has a lot of credit cards type stuff besides everything else. So that's why Goldman and Morgan are acting better than Bank of America and J.P. Morgan because of that. But anyway, guys, at 6:55, I got to get going. There was no 6:30 Club Monday, Tuesday. I was away. I will do a 6:30 Club this Friday. I told you I'm going to be doing a lot of Fridays in 2026 because a lot of you guys joined the Red Dog Mindset. So if you want to be locked in to the 6:30 Club moving forward and you're not a subscriber to the Red Dog Mindset, you better before you might lose access. And if you want to watch on Fridays, because I usually just do Monday through Thursday, make sure to lock in. But for now, Netflix closed well. Yeah, I'm in Netflix. I'm in 3 sets of options. It didn't close so well, but I saw that my buddies from TrendSpider listed it. Showed like this descending channel here, and that it likes to go before numbers. So, I did buy some options out a few weeks. So, we'll see how it goes. This is resistance right around here. This is a 97. This is 93.50, or it's got a lot of work to do. It's been strong a few times, and then there's no extra power here. But from 133 down to 89-ish, sometimes you have to buy in the hole. When I buy in the hole, I rarely buy the stock. I buy the options, so risk is premium paid, and we'll see if it holds up today. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Hope all is well. I will be doing the 6:30 Club tomorrow and again on Friday. Thanks for tuning in. Back on track. It's been a great start to 2026. If you're I was at the highs of my year Monday from the golf course. Yesterday I had a little bit of bleed, and hopefully today things hang in there. Someone said, "What about Joby?" And these type of names. I'm still in it. I've been a lot of the drone type names. I did sell some strength, and yes, it was a little bit of a pain. These things are very sloppy. What's this low here? 14.15. So it would be nice if it holds this area. from what I'm hearing, we're going to start hearing a lot about the contracts for all of these, aviation drone names, even RDW. It's a little wishy-washy. It did do a red dog reversal here. So I was accumulating this thing in the sevens, so I'm allowed to sell some as it goes as high as wherever it was, and I'll be buying some back, and I'm going to be buying options. I think this stock will have a decent year. It's just there's entries and exit matter, sizing matters. So if you don't own any, buy a little bit on the dip. It could see a move to here and still be fine. So just know, if you're doing too much, it hit a high of what? This is 1183. So it got rejected into the gap, 3 cents away. Anyway, so with that said, I do think the drones aviation sector is still going to be a sector that gets a lot of flows. Just a matter of when in the news and the news. Am I still in BABA? I am still in BABA. BABA was actually turning into my best trade of 2026. I told you guys. Remember, I was buying BABA here, and then I added my options instead of selling them, and I was able to get down to a little less than half. What's BABA doing today? BABA is up another 5. Red dog. Anyway, so that's good. Good for me. Good for you. Good for the Alpha team. A lot of people are still in BABA. I think I have about half left, so I will trim some, and that'll help my options because not all the options are working. Someone's like, well, Red Dog Path is horrible. I'm like, you're right. This is a choppy mess. Some things are a choppy mess. To look good and have that happen, I just, it is what it is. That's why I love the Mag 7 names when they're moving. I love semiconductors when there's momentum, and when there's not, there are other sectors in play, but sometimes you just don't trade in a conducive way where traders feel comfortable because there's a lot of thrashing. I like continuity, not thrashing. Only in the bedroom. No, did I say that? No, I like continuity, in the markets. All right, guys, I appreciate you. I'll see you later. It's time for me to do the charts and catch up with the Alpha team. Good luck today.